Did you use the travel system for yourself?
The person you are looking at is Desandra Michelle Ward. At this moment, she is being questioned because investigators believe she used UC Berkeley's internal financial system like a personal pipeline for money. These expenses did not come from a private bank or some unknown company.
No. You're making this sound worse.
They came from a public science center, a place where the money was supposed to serve students, teachers, and community education.
So why you?
Because I was the one doing the paperwork. You know that. Stop acting like paperwork is a confession.
But to understand how everything reached this point, we have to go back to the beginning. And before we begin the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more cases like this. Ward was an administrative employee and later became a financial analyst in a science education program under UC Berkeley. She once lived in Pinole, California, a city not far from Berkeley. When the case came to light, Ward was in her mid-40s, 44 years old when she pleaded guilty in February 2016, and 45 years old when she was sentenced in July of the same year. On paper, she was an employee working in an academic environment, a place surrounded by beautiful words, education, science, children, research, community, public funding. But from 2008 to 2014, over nearly 6 years, Ward abused her access to take a total of $389,948.57 from UC Berkeley and the Lawrence Hall of Science. That money did not disappear in one large transfer. It left the system little by little through airline tickets, procurement cards, payment vouchers, and transactions that appeared legitimate. The direct victims were the University of California, Berkeley, the Lawrence Hall of Science, and the Full Option Science System program, commonly known as FOSS. But if we look at the case more broadly, the victims also included students, teachers, the university community, and even taxpayers, because part of the Lawrence Hall of Science's budget came from federal funding. What makes this case unusual is not high-level technology. There was no malware, no complicated offshore account, no secret meeting inside a luxury hotel. The frightening part is that everything happened through very ordinary tools inside a very ordinary office. The travel system, procurement cards, vouchers, expense approvals, and trust. This is the story of someone who did not need to break into the system. She was already inside. The Lawrence Hall of Science is located in Berkeley, California, on the hills overlooking the San Francisco Bay Area. For many families and students in California, this is not just a university building. It is a place where children come to touch science, models, lessons, exhibits, educational programs, and hands-on experiences in physics, biology, astronomy, and the environment. It belongs to UC Berkeley, one of the most famous public universities in the United States. The name Berkeley often brings to mind images of research, debate, knowledge, and public education. In that larger picture, the Lawrence Hall of Science serves as a bridge between the university and the community, especially children and school teachers. One of the programs connected to this case was the Full Option Science System, or FOSS. This program developed science curriculum materials for elementary and middle school students, while also supporting research into how science is taught and learned. Put simply, this was the kind of program where a budget was not just a set of numbers on a spreadsheet. Every dollar could be tied to learning materials, classroom activities, teacher support, or the chance for a child to understand the world more clearly. Ward began in this program as an administrative assistant. It was not a glamorous role, but it was an important one. A person in that position understands schedules, paperwork, procedures, invoices, and how an expense is created and moves through the internal system. Over time, Ward became a financial analyst. That was an important change. From someone handling administrative tasks, she moved into a position responsible for the budget and finances of FOSS. She was no longer simply standing beside the system. She began to reach deeper into it. In the public eye, Ward had almost no special image. There was no major media profile, no attention-grabbing statements, no portrait of a movie-style con artist. And that is exactly what makes this case colder. Many financial crimes do not begin with someone who looks dangerous. They begin with someone who looks completely ordinary. Someone who knows the passwords, knows the forms, knows who usually signs the approvals, and knows which expenses are small enough that no one will look twice. No one thought that a financial employee inside a science center dedicated to education could quietly siphon nearly $390,000 over several years. But every system has a weakness. It has to trust someone. To understand this case, we have to understand how the internal financial system of a large university works. In an organization like UC Berkeley, money is not spent simply by someone opening a safe and taking cash out. Money moves through many layers of paperwork: purchase requests, travel expenses, procurement cards, invoice approvals, vouchers, reconciliations, and budget reports. These processes exist to help work move faster. A teacher needs materials. A program needs equipment. An employee needs to book business travel. A project needs to pay a vendor. On paper, everything appears safe. The travel system is used to book trips for work-related purposes. Procurement cards are used to purchase items needed for programs. Vouchers are used to pay the right person, for the right purpose, from the right budget. But the weakness is this: the system cannot understand the ethics of the person using it. It only sees forms. It sees names, budget codes, expenses, approvers, and payment reasons. If the person entering the data understands the system well enough, they can make a wrong expense look like a legitimate one. Ward understood that. She did not need to break the process. She exploited the process itself. An airline ticket could look like business travel. A procurement card charge could look like a program expense. A voucher could look like a valid payment. And if each transaction passed through without anyone stopping it, the system began to learn silence. In this case, the source of the money had a special factor. The Department of Justice said that about 25% of the Lawrence Hall of Science's annual budget came from federal grants. That meant the conduct was not just an internal university issue. It became a federal case. When federal money enters an organization, the law requires that organization to protect it. And if someone takes money from a program that receives federal funding, they can be prosecuted under federal law. What is worth noting is that financial systems are not designed to suspect everyone all the time. They are designed to operate on the assumption that people who are given access will use that access properly. Ward's case is a classic example of a very quiet type of crime. A crime committed through legitimate access. There is no public information showing exactly what happened on the first day Ward took the money. There is no recording of the moment she decided to cross the line. But according to the case records, the embezzlement began in 2008. It may not have started with a massive amount. Cases like this do not need to begin with a shocking number. They often begin with a transaction that looks small enough, normal enough, and similar enough to thousands of other transactions inside a large organization. An airline ticket, a personal expense pushed through the travel system, a procurement card used for the wrong purpose, a voucher processed for someone who should not have received money. The first time, if no one asks questions, the person learns something. The system can be pushed off course without making a sound. After that, Ward began using multiple methods. First, she used UC Berkeley's travel system to book personal airline tickets for herself, her family, and her friends. This system was supposed to be used for trips related to university work. But in Ward's hands, it became a doorway for personal expenses to pass through the school's budget. Second, she did not only book tickets for people she knew. Ward also bought airline tickets and then resold them to others for her own personal profit. That detail changes the color of the case. Using university money for personal travel would already be embezzlement. But buying tickets through the school's system and reselling them meant turning public resources into personal merchandise. She was not just spending money, she was creating a money-making mechanism. Third, Ward used the university's procurement card, a work-related purchasing card, for personal transactions. In a university environment, procurement cards are usually issued, so employees can buy supplies or services needed for a program. But without strict oversight, they can also become personal credit cards paid for by the organization. Fourth, she processed vouchers to create payments for herself, her relatives, and her friends. A voucher is an administrative tool. It does not look dangerous, but if the person handling vouchers has bad intentions, it can become a way to legitimize money flowing in the wrong direction. From the outside, these transactions may have looked like nothing more than lines of text on a report. But when placed together, they showed a pattern. A person with financial access was moving money out of the system in multiple directions, and every direction led back to her personal life. Prosecutors charged Ward with 5 counts of theft from programs receiving federal funds under 18 USC Section 666 A(1)(a). This statute applies when a person steals, embezzles, or intentionally misappropriates property from an organization or program that receives federal funds. For the Lawrence Hall of Science, this factor was important. The Department of Justice said that about 25% of the center's annual budget came from federal grants. That pushed the case beyond the boundaries of an internal university violation. On February 9, 2016, Ward pleaded guilty to all 5 counts. In her plea agreement, she admitted that she had taken $389,948.57 from UC Berkeley between 2008 and 2014. A guilty plea changes the status of a case. Before that moment, the information could be described as allegations. After Ward pleaded guilty, the core conduct was no longer only a suspicion held by prosecutors. It became a legal fact admitted by the defendant. On July 19, 2016, in federal court in Oakland, Judge Jeffrey S. White sentenced Ward. The sentence included 18 months in federal prison, 3 years of supervised release after prison, restitution of $389,948.57 to UC Berkeley, forfeiture of $308,817.58. Ward was allowed to remain out on bond for a short time, but she was ordered to report to begin serving her sentence on October 20, 2016. An 18-month sentence may not sound long compared to fraud cases involving hundreds of millions of dollars. But in a case like this, the dollar amount is not the only factor. The court does not look only at the money. It looks at the betrayal of a position of trust, the length of time the conduct continued, and the fact that the money came from a public institution serving the community. A financial employee does not need to collapse an entire organization for the damage to be serious. Sometimes it is enough to take for long enough, quietly enough, and from a place the public believes is safe. After the sentence, UC Berkeley could identify the amount that needed to be repaid. The court could write down the number. The prosecutors could close the file. But the consequences of internal embezzlement do not end at the final line of a judgment. The direct loss was $389,948.57. But for a science education center, that number was not just money. It could have meant learning materials that were not purchased, equipment that was not upgraded, projects that were not supported, staff time that had to shift away from education and toward audits, investigation, and repairing procedures. The community was affected in a way that is not easy to see. There were no long lines of victims standing in court telling personal stories. There was no family savings account wiped clean. But this was money belonging to a public university, an educational program, and an organization connected to federal funding. The victim was the shared system, and shared systems often suffer quietly. After cases like this, an organization has to look back at itself. Who has the authority to approve expenses? Who has the authority to create vouchers? How are procurement card transactions reviewed? Are travel expenses reconciled with actual work purposes? Can one financial employee create, edit, or push a payment through too many steps alone? An embezzlement scheme that lasts for years always leaves behind one uncomfortable question. If a colleague had not noticed the unusual documents, how much longer would this have continued? For the Lawrence Hall of Science, perhaps the greatest damage was not only the money that was lost. It was the crack in the image of a place built to teach children to trust truth, data, and evidence. Inside that place, a financial system had been manipulated, not through violence, but through familiarity. Ward did not steal from a nameless bank. She stole from a place with a public purpose. And that makes this case far more troubling than the number of nearly $390,000 alone. From 2008 to 2014, this conduct did not stop at a few small violations. It stretched across years, long enough to become part of the system's shadow. The final amount was determined to be $389,948.57. That was the amount Ward admitted taking from UC Berkeley and the Lawrence Hall of Science. To put it into perspective, nearly $390,000 is not an accidental loss. It is not an invoice entered incorrectly. It is the result of repeated actions, deliberate decisions, and many moments when the system was exploited. Meanwhile, on the surface, the Lawrence Hall of Science still looked normal. Children still came to visit. Teachers still used the materials. Programs still operated. Reports were still submitted. From the outside, everything still belonged to the world of science and education. But inside, money had begun to flow down paths no one wanted. Airline tickets meant for business travel became personal tickets. Work-related expenses were shifted into private spending. Payment vouchers were no longer only tools used to operate a program. They became vehicles to send money to relatives and friends. The chilling thing about this case is that there was no immediate collapse. A bank robbery sets off alarms. A hack can freeze a system, but internal embezzlement can exist in silence. It does not break down doors. It does not shatter glass. It simply thins out the budget, one transaction at a time. Ward remained inside the organization. She remained in a role connected to finance. And when the person trusted to help protect the flow of money is the person distorting it, every passing day makes detection harder. No one wants to believe that an employee inside a science center at a leading public university could do something like this. But that is exactly what allowed the conduct to continue. Trust, when left unchecked, can become the perfect cover. Things began to change when a colleague noticed documents that did not seem right. This was not a movie moment where the FBI stormed into an office. It may have been nothing more than a routine review of paperwork. Someone looked at a document and felt that something was off. A name did not match. A payment was unrelated to the program. An airline ticket was not for university business. A voucher led to someone who should not have received money. Internal financial cases often begin this way, with an uneasy feeling about one small detail. The first warning sign was payment documentation that appeared inappropriate. When a document does not match the purpose of the expense, it opens the question: was this an administrative error or the trace of something much larger? The second warning sign was airline tickets that did not serve university work. The travel system existed to support business travel. If tickets were booked for someone unrelated to the work or for personal purposes, they were no longer legitimate expenses. The third warning sign involved payments connected to relatives or friends. When a financial analyst can process vouchers that lead to payments for herself or people she knows, the risk of a conflict of interest becomes obvious. The fourth warning sign was the misuse of the procurement card. A work purchasing card requires a clear reason. If personal transactions appear, that shows the cardholder has moved beyond the permitted scope. The fifth warning sign was a pattern lasting for years. A mistake can happen once, but when conduct repeats from 2008 to 2014, it is no longer a misunderstanding. It is a system being exploited. The deeper people dug, the more the numbers failed to line up. The transactions began to speak to one another. An airline ticket connected to a voucher connected to a name connected to ward. Each individual piece may have looked small, but placed side by side, they formed a picture that could no longer be explained as carelessness. After the irregularities were discovered, the matter was no longer just a simple, internal suspicion. The University of California Police Department was notified. Then, because of the large amount of money, the length of time involved, and the presence of federal funding, the case was brought to federal authorities. The investigation was conducted by the FBI, with significant assistance from the UCPD and UC Berkeley Audit and Advisory Services. An investigation like this does not rely on rumors. It relies on documents. Travel records show who booked the tickets, who the tickets were for, and what system the cost moved through. Procurement card transactions show what the work card was used for. Vouchers show who requested payment, who was supposed to receive the money, and what reason was given. The money trail shows where the money left the university's account and where it went. Each type of evidence added another layer to the story. If there had been only one airline ticket, Ward might have said it was a mistake. If there had been only one card transaction, perhaps it could have been called an administrative error. If there had been only one voucher, maybe it would have required more review. But when airline tickets, purchasing cards, vouchers, and the money trail all pointed in the same direction, the story of mistake began to fall apart. The final picture was almost impossible to deny. From 2008 to 2014, Ward used UC Berkeley's financial systems to take money for personal purposes. The total loss was determined to be $389,948.57. One important point in this case was Ward's position. She was not an outsider sending fake invoices from a distance. She was inside the system. She knew which expenses moved where. She knew which forms to use. She knew how an expense should be presented. Her legitimate access was exactly what made the case harder to detect. Investigators did not only have to prove that money was missing, they had to prove that it had been taken intentionally through a repeated pattern by someone responsible for managing or helping manage finances. Eventually, the evidence was strong enough for the case to move forward as a federal prosecution. There is no public information showing a dramatic arrest scene, and no body cam footage has been released in this case. So, in a documentary, this scene should not be staged, as if real footage exists. The important legal moment happened on November 16, 2015. On that day, Ward was charged by a document called an information with 5 counts of theft from programs receiving federal funds. Not every case has a scene where police break down a door. Some cases reach their turning point inside a document filed in court. A name appears in a federal record. A chain of transactions becomes a list of charges. An employee who once processed paperwork now becomes a defendant in the very legal system that the paperwork led to. If this scene is recreated, it should feel cold and quiet. The camera moves down an office hallway. No shouting, no one running, no chaos. On screen, the date appears, November 16th, 2015. A file is stamped. The prosecutors now have enough grounds to say, this is no longer an internal matter. This is a federal case. Ward was no longer just a former UC Berkeley employee. She became someone accused of taking money from a program that received federal funding. And from that point on, the question was no longer, is something wrong in the paperwork? The question became, how much did she take? How did she do it? And how will she be held responsible?